welcome back to another video. So I'm sitting here with my Romantic Country. Most of you know this is one of my favorite coloring books aside from Johanna Basford's World of Flowers. And I've got quite a few green Prismacolors here, and I've got my Staedtler Tri Plus fine liner. These are my absolute favorite fine liners. And if you saw my last YouTube Shorts video, you probably know what we're going to be doing in this video. This video is going to be a tutorial on how to create grass on the page I've been working on in this book. Now, I already did one whole side of the grass, and so we are going to work on the other side. But I wanted to make this video a lot like my most recent video where I shared lots of tips and tricks and hacks where I showed you how to bring your gel pens to your coloring books. And so I thought I could do the same thing with my fine liners. And so I'm not just going to stop at the grass in this video. I'm going to show you a couple other ways you can use your fine liners in your coloring books. A lot of you left comments in that video, and you were saying how that video encouraged you to pull out your gel pens and use your gel pens. Some of you said that you were afraid to use them because you didn't want to mess up your coloring pages. Some of you said you just really weren't sure how to use them, and the video was really helpful. So I wanted to make this video and do the same thing with the fine liners and just give you a few different tips and tricks on how to bring your fine liners to your coloring pages. I just don't think we should keep ourselves limited to just colored pencils. It's always fun to bring in gel pens and fine liners and glitter and lots of different other things because it really adds a lot of detail to your coloring pages and enhances them quite a lot. So we are going to start by looking at the page that I've been working on. I have it paper clipped here so that I could get to it really quickly. But this is the grass that I did on this side, and it took quite a while to do this. I would say at least probably a couple hours just because I don't know, it was a lot of work. So I've got the other side here to do, and so I'm going to show you exactly how I did this. I'm not going to color all of this side in this video because I want to be able to show you other ways to bring your fine liners to your coloring pages, and I was working on something else in a Hannah Carlson book, and I'm going to show you that as well. But I'm going to work right here, and I'm just going to show you how I laid the Prismacolors down and then how I came back with the fine liner to add the extra detail to create all this extra depth and make it look like it was actually grass with the actual Prismacolors looking as though they are just highlighting everything and making the fine liners really stand out along with the darker colors. So let me go ahead and share the colors with you that I'm using first. You can see by looking at these colors that they are all very different from one another. They all have different undertones, and I just took all of them and I just mixed them all together, and they ended up looking like this. And you can see that it all came together looking really, really nice. And so the colors that I used, I've got my 70% cool gray because I came in and I used that for some of the shadows when I wanted to darken some things up. And the reason I have cool gray is because greens are cool colors. When you are using cool colors, you want to stick to cool grays to do your shading. And when you're using warm colors like reds, you want to be able to use your warm grays to create the shadows. But that is what all those grays are for in your Prismacolor set, so that you can use them to create shadows or darken up some of your colors. You don't always have to go to a darker shade. You can just come in with a gray and go right over it. And I'm going to show you that in this video today. But I've got Parrot Green, then I have Pale Sage. This one is Kelp Green, Prussian Green, Jade Green, and True Green. Okay, so I zoomed you in just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing, and I'm probably just going to do this small section up here and show you exactly how I created this. So let's go ahead and start by laying down some of these colors. So the first thing that I did was I took the parrot green and I just laid this parrot green just wherever, because all of these colors later are all going to come together and create different colors. And after they all come together and you see one color laying over the other color, and then I bring in the fine liners, you're going to see that it all comes together and looks way different. But all of the colors together are what helps to create all of that extra depth and dimension when you're trying to create grass. And grass is just a bunch of strokes, and you use a flicking motion of your hand, or of the pencil, I should say. And then you layer the colors over the top of one another so that when they all, this is my pale sage, and I'm just going to lay this in and around as well. But you lay the colors all in and around and on top of one another, and it creates a really cool look. But this is the base of what I did initially. And I just laid these colors all over the top of one another. Okay, so now that I have a little bit of that highlight color in there, I am going to start coming back with some of these other colors. And I didn't use this jade green until the end as a filler. We're going to start laying down some of that grass. And I'm trying to remember, it's been a little while since I did this. And I was holding off for this video, but I think I started with the kelp green. So we're going to cut in here with this kelp green, and you can see that there's already some natural lines here. Let me lay my other colors down. But you can see that there's already some lines here that the actual artist drew in. So I'm just going to come in here and start making my grass. And when I do this, I'm trying to stay in one section where I make these lines, because I'm going to come back in with another color and I'm going to go over this, but this is not even my darkest color yet. And then when I want to come back and do some shading and make it even darker, I'll end up coming back with either gray or what was this other color? The Prussian green. And when you're doing this with your Prismacolors, you want to try to turn your pencil, because the Prismacolors are so soft that once they come together, they don't really look like strokes anymore. They just sort of blend together. And that is why we are going to come back with some other colors and blend other colors into this as well. Because when you have all of the colors sort of laying over one another, that's what makes it look more realistic. Now I need to come over here and I need to finish this side. And I made sure I did this everywhere where I see those little pieces of grass that were drawn in by the artist, just because I want to cover those up. Okay, so now I have my parrot green, and I'm going to use my parrot green to do the same thing and put some of these strokes right over that other color. And I just thought these two colors together looked really good. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to start just laying some of this color in here. This is my pale sage. And I'm just blending out some of these strokes with this color and using it as a filler at the same time. And you can see that it's starting to color or cover a lot of the white of the paper, and it's also going to spread my grass out. And I'm going to keep coming back with all of these colors just to get all of those layers in there. And the blend of all of the colors is what is going to create the look of grass. And now I have true green, and I'm going to add some of this in here. And this is also just being used as a filler and to cover some of that white space. And all of these colors are just being laid over one another. And in some of the spaces, I'm leaving it alone. Like you can see where I've got some of that sage green laid. I'm just sticking this in different areas all throughout the grass. Okay, so now I have my Prussian green. And I'm going to come in here with my Prussian green. And this one is quite a bit darker than that kelp green. And so I am going to just keep making grass. And I'm just putting this right over all of those other areas where I drew in that grass. So the combination of all of the colors layered over one another is what is going to make this look like grass. And like over here where I've got this tree coming down, I like to actually get in there and make this look a little bit more real. And over here where the road is, I would like to imagine that I've actually got this grass coming up over where the road is, because that's what what grass would naturally do. And then you'll see a little bit later what I do with this, all of this over here. So I'm just making a little bit more grass, bringing that down a little bit more. But even in some cases, I wanted to make the grass look like it was just going right over the flowers. And then over here where I've got this tree, it's okay to make it sort of go over the tree. You could see that there's a couple little lines right here the artist drew in. And so I would imagine that is grass there too, and it's okay to just go right over that tree bark there. Over here, I want to make sure I could see the grass going up above, just to make it look a bit more realistic. And sometimes I forget, but it's good to, like I said earlier, just keep turning your pencil so that when your lead gets a little bit more dull, you can turn it and you'll have that sharp lead again. It's best to use it sort of at the side and then just do this here. So if you could see this other side over here, you could see that this took a whole lot of layers, and that's why it took so long. I mean, we're just working on just this very small section here to show you how to create this grass, and it still doesn't look like this over here, and that's because we have to keep coming back and we have to keep adding more layers. I have my parrot green again, and I probably need to sharpen it. So most of you probably saw my last video where I showed this Jarlink pencil sharpener, and I told you all that I was going to update you on my experience with this because I had been looking for quite some time for an electric pencil sharpener, and they sent me 2 of them. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the upper right hand corner. But this pencil sharpener is so amazing and works so well with my Prismacolors. And I am just kind of blown away by this pencil sharpener, but look how it just freshens up my lead. I just want to show this to y'all. And it stops, and the auto stop works so perfectly. And look at that beautiful lead that I have now. But you definitely need to keep a sharp lead when you are doing something like grass. And that pencil sharpener has just helped me quite a bit to keep my sharp leads. But this is my parrot green, and I'm just coming back over here and doing the same thing and adding in more layers. And I just love this color. This color is just, I don't know, it's different. It's like a really beautiful bright green, and mixed in with all these other shades of colors, it just really creates that look that I'm looking for, or you know, the blend of the colors together and the way that it looks with that more olive green or a mossier type green. And then I'm going to do some up here, coming up over where the artist put that grass line. And when you're doing grass, you have to remember grass goes different directions. So if you want it to look more natural, you need to make sure your grass is going different directions. I think I'm going to come back with my jade green now, and I'm going to use this one as a filler. And I'm just going to add some of this in here. And this is helping to bring all the colors together as well. And this is a very different looking green. It almost looks gray. But again, when you're creating something like grass, or you're doing something like animal fur, you want a really big mix of lots of different colors, so that when they all come together and layer over one another, you could see all the different strokes laying over each other. Just thought this color was a nice addition to the look that I was trying to create with this. But this is just sort of blending all of these colors in as well, and filling in a lot of that space that is still white. And we're getting close, but we still have quite a few layers to do to make this look like this. So let's go ahead and start alternating our colors now. I think I'm going to add a little bit more of my true green, and then I'm going to come back with my darker color. And I don't want too much of this color. I think a lot of this color was used just to create the highlighted areas over on the other side. We still have to come down here and make this look a little bit more natural, all down here where we are coming up against the road, or her little pathway here, what I would assume is the road. So I've got Prussian green, And I'm going to come in here and add more of the Prussian green now. And like I said earlier, I'm going to go over this area here because I want it to look more realistic rather than there just being a complete separation between the grass and the road. And the fine liners are going to make a huge difference when we get to those. And I hope some of you grabbed your coloring book and you're following along and doing this right along with me. And if you do follow this tutorial, please do share it in my Facebook group. Okay, let me get my darkest green. And I think I'm gonna, yeah, my kelp green. I think this is the darkest one. Okay, so let's go over here and just really make this quite, this is the darkest one. I think you could hopefully tell on camera. But it's making it quite a bit darker. And then when I come back with the gray, it will make it even darker. But we're starting to cover a lot of that white now, and it's starting to look a lot better. It's really starting to come together nicely, and you can see it's getting very close to what we have over here now. But of course, this one has fine liner in there, so you could really see what would look like strands of grass over here. So I'm going to grab my 70% cool gray. Look at the difference this gray makes. See how it just darkens it up quite a bit? And it darkens it up without really changing the color. Like everything still looks green. Now, if we were using something like polychromos, it may be easier because it's a harder pencil to keep that lead on the pencil much sharper. And so the way that it was all just kind of blending in, that's when I decided to grab my fine liners and see what I could do with them. And I really just took a chance because I didn't know how it was going to turn out or if I was even going to like it. And sometimes you just need to take a chance. Now I need to come in here and fill a lot of that space. And I don't need to sharpen this one because this is actually my color that I'm going to use as a filler. And so I'm just kind of blending some of these colors out and pulling them together. This is my sage green or pale sage. But see how it just fills in some of that white and it sort of brings all the colors together. Pale sage is my absolute favorite highlight color to use when I'm using greens. I love this color and I love what it does when you use this color to burnish. Now I'm just going around some of these edges where the road meets the grass just to try to hide some of that dark line where the artist created that separation between the road and the grass. So in these areas where I have like a leaf or something that is really close to my grass, I took the time on the other side to just sort of go around all of those areas with my darkest color just to create the look that those leaves are actually laying over the top of my grass. And then I took my gray and I went over my darkest green just to create quite a bit more of a shadow in those areas as well. So I think it's time to go ahead and grab our fine liner. So I've got my Tri Plus fine liner and I'm not sure what the color is called, but this is like a dark olive green type color. And I wanted it to match with my Prussian green and my kelp green, which were my two darkest colors. I don't want to mess up with this, so I think I'm going to speed this part up to music, but you're going to see me just coming over everywhere where I laid all of these darker pieces of, I guess, grass. And you're going to see me do this flicking motion with my hand and to make it look much more realistic so that it looks like it does over here on this side. Okay, y'all, so this fine liner has decided to not work for me. Wouldn't that be lovely right in the middle of a tutorial or filming a tutorial? But that does not matter because if y'all only knew how long I had these, and that gives me the perfect excuse to buy new ones. So that is what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so these are my Stabilo fine liners, and they come in a really cool case and sort of just roll up like this, and then it goes like this, but I've had these for years as well, probably at least maybe even 5 years, 4 years, I don't know. But you can see that a lot of them are missing, so I don't have my olive type green in here. These are my other favorites, and I have no idea where the other ones are. They may not even be working anymore. I think some of them, I use them so often that I think some of those got thrown out. But these are very budget friendly, super, super cheap on Amazon. And so if you want some fine liners, this video is actually a really great opportunity for me to pull these out and test them. Looking at these, I actually have a very dark green. It may not be as olivey as that other one, but it is a very dark green. So it's going to save us, hopefully. But there's quite a few colors in these, and I think that these 2 packs came together, I think, but you can get these in much bigger sets, and I paid hardly nothing for those. But the tutorial must go on. So we are going to use this one. This one I've already tested out, so it's working really, really well. So I'm just going to show you exactly how I made this grass look more realistic. And I am going to speed this part up to music. Okay, so you could see how I went in there and I just did that stroking motion through the whole entire thing. So I'm actually now going to take this very budget fine liner, and I'm going to do the same thing on this other side over here, because I actually like how this one looked much better than that other color. So see, I just learned something. But the darker green color that didn't have as much olive in it, it actually made the strokes, or the grass pieces of grass, look like they were standing out much, much more. And then what I did over here on the other side is, you can see over here how this is much darker. I actually took my fine liner and I added some of that in there, and it just adds so much depth and dimension. But look at the difference, and it goes so nicely right over your pencils. And then I like to make sure that I go over the pencils where I sort of tried to get rid of this line that the artist drew here, all the way around where we have the grass meeting the road. And again, I'm going different directions, and I'm doing the same thing that I did with my pencils. I'm getting green all over my fingers now. And be careful with that when you're doing that, because you don't want to get the green on your fingers and then go back down onto your coloring page and it comes off your fingers onto your coloring page. Oh, look how much better that looks. And I'm going to do it over here by this tree too. Oh my goodness. So I like that side better than the other side now. And I think that I want to add more grass to make it look even better. I will probably come back with my pencils just to go over this a little bit. But yeah, you could add as much grass as you want to and make yours your own. Wow, so I really, really like that now. And then once it's dry, I mean, it should dry pretty quickly, but you could see how I added lots of extra fine liner and darker colors all in this area here, and it created all of that depth right there. And then we've got all the lines just layered over one another, and it just really created the look of realistic grass, and I just absolutely love it. Now I'm going to come back in here with my true green, and I am just going to go over this a little bit and cover more of that white of the paper. And you can go right over your fine liners. Don't be afraid to go right over the fine liner, and it's just going to pull everything together and make it look even better. But this true green just really adds in that brightness. And I think I forgot right over here above the tree, I want to make it look like this grass is just coming up out of that tree. So then when I come back and I cover the tree bark, it's really that area there is really just going to stand out and look like there's grass there. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more of my pale sage in here just to brighten it up a little bit. And again, I'm going right over those fine liners, and it's just smoothing everything out. And it doesn't take away from the fine liners at all, but when you go over them, look what it did right there. It just sort of brings it all together. I absolutely love it. There's my grass, and I was able to finish that small section, and of course I'm going to finish all the rest off camera, and I'll share it in my Facebook group when it's done. But I'm going to take this cheapy fine liner, and I'm going to go over the other side because I actually like it much better. It probably is the contrast of the colors, because this one has a lot more green in it, or is just a regular, like the color that grass would be. And this one was a much more olive tone, and it sort of just blended in a lot more with my kelp green and my Prussian green. And this one just created more contrast between the strands, and so it made the grass look even better. Okay, so now I have Hannah Carlson's Magical Dawn, and I'm going to show you something that I did in here and another way that you could use your fine liners. But I started working on this page here, and I've only done a little bit, but y'all have no idea how many whips I have. I have so many of them. And then I test out different things. And then of course I want to show everybody what I did, because it ends up looking so good. So I'm going to show you how I did this here with the leaves. Now the shells are not done. And if you're curious, these shells were a bunch of, I don't know, I think I had pinks, and I'm not even sure what the colors were, but I used this Nouveau glitter marker to be able to color in all of these parts of the shell. And to me, they still don't look right. They still don't look like they're done. So I'm probably going to take this same technique that I used on here with my fine liners, and I'm going to bring it over to the shells. But I want to be able to show y'all exactly how I did this. I think we have another small one here that I could just demonstrate, or there's another smaller one down here. I think I'm going to stay to the top of the page, but let me go ahead and show you for this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and color this one in really quick. So in case you're wondering, the colors that I was using was the peacock green, the dark green, the neon yellow, which is a super cool color, and the true green. And I wanted to pull out my neon colors because I never use my neon colors. And I've just been wanting to do different things in my coloring books that I don't normally do. Okay, so I just took these colors and I just sporadically laid them wherever I thought they would look good. And so that one was my true green. And then I've got peacock green. And I'm just going to lay this one around. And see, when I did this initially, I just didn't think that it looked done. It didn't have that finished look to me. And so I just wanted to add something else. And so I'm excited to show you that. Let me go ahead and add another layer here with these colors. This true green and the dark green, they are so pretty together. And then that neon yellow really just makes it pop. Was that might have been the true green and the peacock green. I sit here and I film these videos, and then it's like I do stuff and then I don't remember what I pulled out of my hand. Most of you can see when I film videos, I always leave the pencils in my hand so that I could just go back and forth and have quick access to them and just pick them up as I need them. And sometimes I just get distracted, like we all do. But I'm adding all of that neon yellow. Look how beautiful that color is. And I never use it. Okay, so now I've got dark green, and I used this dark green to do the center. And then I think I just added a bit up there. And then I think just darkened these areas up just a little bit. But I didn't want to use both of my darker greens in those areas because I didn't want them to look the same. So then I grabbed my fine liner, and so this is just like my regular green fine liner, and of course this is the Staedtler Tri Plus. I'm just going to come in here and just do this. I don't even know, what would you call this, but I'm just kind of laying some of the ink onto the page, and I'm doing it where those little dots are. on the leaf that the artist already drew in there. And I did this and I was like, this looks so cool. But it added so much to these leaves. And a little bit up in here. But look at this. Is that not the coolest thing ever? And then I'm going to go over here just to make it a bit darker. But I'm just sort of moving the tip of the fine liner back and forth, and I'm lifting it up as I do it, and then coming back down on the paper so it makes like a scribbly type look. And I just thought it looked really, really neat, but look at that. And that is exactly how I did these leaves up here. So there's another little trick for you on how to use your fine liners. Still in Hannah Carlson's Magical Dawn, and I'm going to show you one more way that you could use your fine liners. I just wanted to show you really quick on one of these flowers, or just like the petal. But I could come in here and we're going to color all of this in with our fine liner. And with your fine liners, you need to make sure that you cover all of the way to the paper when you are just straight coloring with something like a fine liner, because the tips of these are pretty thin. I think these are probably maybe like a 0.3 or something like that. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to color this side as well. And let's get as close to the edge as we possibly can. And I'm just going to color in this entire side of the flower so I could show you exactly what I'm going to do and you can see how it actually looks. After you get your fine liner laid down exactly the way that you want it, you're going to come back and grab your colored pencils, your Prismacolors, whatever colors you have. In this case, I'm using the raspberry, and I'm going to use this just to create some shadows. So if I wanted some shadows up here, I'm going to go right over that fine liner, and look at that. Is that so cool? And then if I wanted to create a little bit of dimension, I could come in here and really make that look very three-dimensional. And then I can come in over here where I would want to make this flower look like it was laying behind, and then maybe over here. But look how cool that is. So you could do the same thing that you would maybe do with your alcohol markers, and you could add some depth and dimension by just laying your colored pencils right over the top of your fine liners. But look how neat that is. But I'm sure I could use a darker color if I wanted to and create even more dimension. And I could probably take even a warm gray and go over what I did. So I've got a 50% warm gray. And yes, look. So that worked to make it even darker. Or you could always use a darker color. That's just another idea that you can use and really have fun with your fine liners. Now I did show you 3 different fine liners, and the Tri-Plus are really, really great. The Stabilo are really, really great. You can see that I've already gone through quite a few of these because I'm missing them, and I'm sure some of them, I remember having to throw some of them in the garbage because they already ran out. And apparently after 3 or 4 years, my trusty little Tri-Plus stud liner, my very first one, ran out. I have all of the other colors and I use them quite often, but I just thought that this would be a really fun tutorial, and so I hope that you're able to take some of these things and apply them to your own coloring pages and get some of those fine liners out, or even the gel pens like I showed you in my last video, and start pulling some of those things out to be able to use them. But these little super, super cheap ones right here, I will make sure that I link those also down in the description box below, because I use these all the time too, and I really, really love them. And they saved me today when my Tri-Plus, Staedtler Tri-Plus wasn't working anymore, and I was like, had to pause the video, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be able to finish this tutorial. Don't fail me now. So I was able to pull these and see if I had the right color, and I had a darker green in there, but these were the 24 pack, and I'm pretty sure they come bigger, but I will make sure everything is linked down below for you. And I will see you in the next video. Happy coloring. Bye.